Hey there, welcome. It's Kristin with Somatics, and today I'm going to talk about another way of doing your somatics. Now, I have a video where I talk about not lying on a yoga mat, but actually just lying on the floor or lying on a blanket, because these sticky mats kind of hinder your movement. But they're kind of ubiquitous. They're everywhere and people just use them, including myself sometimes. But here's another thing that you can do. If you don't want to go to the floor and you want to do something other than sitting in a chair, of course you can do it somatic standing, but you could do your somatics up against the wall. So you would put your feet out a little bit away from the wall. You know, you're not trying to stand up against the wall because it's probably pretty uncomfortable for a lot of people. So just gently walk your feet out a little bit, and then you're going to have the back of your pelvis against the wall. And this is kind of a, like a soma scan in and of itself. So you want to see, can you just relax against the wall with your pelvis, your shoulder girdle, and the back of your head. So some folks, if they're more red light, they're going to have the shoulders barely touching the wall, their head will be away from the wall. Don't try to force everything against the wall, because then what people do is they tip their head back, and that's kind of like what it looks like when you lie on the floor if you're a red lighter and your head's tipping back. So let's just practice maybe an arch and flatten up against the wall. And if your head's away from the wall, don't worry about it. You could put a block back there, but it's probably going to fall as you move. So let's go into our flatten, meaning the low back flattens into the wall, and you can roll your shoulders forward. I'm letting my legs bend and tightening into the front of my hips, and belly is shortening, tightening, and I'm going to tip my head back a little bit more to exaggerate that red light and computer posture. Now very slowly feel the hips open, the belly lengthens, the chest widens, and you can lengthen up through the back of your neck, and you might find that you're just maybe resting a little bit more towards the wall. So we can try that again. So here's a little visual for you. You know, we talk about, okay, move your shoulders, move your pelvis. But what I want you to think about is that the front of your body has rubber bands connecting everything together. So from your center, think about the rubber bands tightening in the middle of your body to roll your shoulders forward, and head comes away from the wall. And you can tip your head back a little bit more, feel the tension in the back of the neck. So it's like rubber bands are back here and in the belly, chest, across the chest, into the hip creases. From the center of all those rubber bands, start to release. And coming up to vertical, let the back of the neck lengthen. A lot of folks don't really move their heads very much. They're tipped back so much that they kind of just don't remember to let things release. Okay, so let's try going into more of that green light, that fight or flight reflex now. So we'll go into an arch, and we'll feel the pelvis press more into the wall. You could put the shoulders and arms and spiral the arms out more against the wall. Again, I'm still letting my legs bend a bit, because really we're working with our torso. And then you could tuck your chin a little bit towards your chest. So now the tension's in the back. Continue to breathe, and then just slowly feel your back relax. Unwind the shoulders. And just give yourself a moment and just notice, does it start to feel a little different about the impression that you're leaving against the wall? So, you could do, and if you feel like you want to bring your feet a little bit closer to the wall, does it start getting a little easier where you can stand closer to the wall with your feet? You could do side bending movements. You could pay attention to your waist and give a little hike to a hip and let your shoulder come down. So I've got this shortening on my left, an opening on the right. I want to pay attention to this left side releasing and coming back to center. And then we can play with that on the other side. Now your heel will probably want to come up, but notice, are you pushing with your foot, or are you engaging your side to bring that hip up, your shoulder down, and then slowly release. Okay, so you're addressing the sides. It's like the side bend that you can do on the floor. You could also pay attention. Let's go back to our other side again. Feel the contraction in your waist. Now you're getting feedback about, do you rotate when you do this? Does the shoulder come off the wall, or do you feel it more right on the side of the body? So you can pay attention to the impression that you leave on the wall. Now, when this happens in the shortening, maybe your head's tipping that way, but if you like, you could tip your head away from the short, tight side of the torso. And then as you release your waist, breathe into your ribs, hip, pelvis settles, head comes back to center. Okay, so try it again on the other side. You're going to contract your waist, hip and armpit spoon towards each other, allow your head to tip in the other direction. Okay, so this is what happens when somebody has this kind of trauma reflex or a little bit of scoliotic C-curve. The head's going to actually tip in the other direction because your vestibular system wants to keep your eyes level. We don't really see very many people walking around, you know, like this, right? But we might see them hiking a hip and their head's tipping the other way. But let that go and just see how you feel. Okay, so, you know, you could play with kind of wash rag arms and letting the hips and the pelvis move one way and the head and the arms the other. Now, of course, my hip is coming off the floor a little bit, which is just like what happens, off the wall. As we do wash rag on the floor, it's the same thing, right? So it's just different feedback. And of course, start with your Soma scan in this position. So do you feel like you're got even weight in your shoulders? Is your pelvis twisting? And of course, we should have done that first, but you know, it's a really interesting feedback to use the wall as opposed to the floor. Or if you're sitting on a chair, your feedback is more of the sits bones and where are you on your pelvis, and your torso is just, you know, hanging out above the pelvis in space. So different feedback will give your brain more information to know more about what your patterns are, and maybe that will help you identify your SMA, your sensory motor amnesia. And of course, what you learn doing somatics on the wall, you can take to the floor and notice if you unpeel another layer of the onion to your SMA, and does it give you more benefit on the floor when you do go to the floor. All right, I hope that was helpful. If it is, feel free to give a comment down below and give it a thumbs up. I'm supposed to ask you guys to do that. And remember, if you are brand new to somatics, if you go to my website, I have a free Somatics 101 e-course where you can really learn the basics, and it's a good place to start. All right, ciao for now.